I'd like to call the RTM budget hearings for Tuesday, April 18th, 2023 to order. We'll take the roll call.
Ed Bateson. Marty Fury. Melissa Longo. Amy Ruggiero. Bill Gerber. Here. Karen McCormick. Here. Cindy Perham. Jeff Steele. Alex Durrell. Here. Jeff Galdenzi. Tom Lambert.
Here.
Sharon Pastilli. Here. Laura Carson. Here. Michelle McCabe.
Here.
Marcy Spalier.
Here.
Liz Esma. Here. Jennifer Barahona. Josh Garskoff.
Here.
Joe Siebert. Jay Walk. Steve Barretts. Hannah Gale. Here. Andy Graceffa. Lisa Havey. John Kuhn. Here. Mark McDermott.
Here.
Jill Vergara. Karen Wackerman. Cameron Chiniski. Hank Ferentz. Pam Iacono.
Here.
Jim Myers.
Here.
Christine Brown. Drew Georgiadis.
Here.
Margaret Horton. Kelly Cinto. Ken Astorita.
Here.
Peter Britton. Brooke Sparacino. Story Tallman.
Thank you, Betsy. Let's all please rise for the pledge. Okay, thank you. For those of you on WebEx, please make sure you're muted because we had a little reverb back here in the room. I'm going to turn the floor over to Madam First Selectwoman Brenda Kupchak to just give a quick overview of the budget.
You have to touch these. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and good evening. Obviously, it's our third time doing it, so I'm going to condense it for you. I'm certain most of you have watched the presentation and the slide deck. So I just want to lead off by saying I want to thank our department heads and our finance department who have worked really hard with me on this budget and have been participating in this process for many months. As you know, I already presented the budget in February and then to the Board of Finance in March. Technically, this budget really is now the Board of Finance's, but I did want to highlight a few key points for you tonight. I hope most of you have read the materials and watched the meetings. Our finance department through the moderator sent all previously provided backup and Q&A from the other boards to the RTM. As a town, we are facing many inflationary cost increases, rising energy costs as are our residents, which is why it was very important to me when crafting this budget that we were being responsive and prioritize the needs. In addition to these costs, the increase in the fees to dispose of garbage, as you probably read recently in the news, and recycling are putting pressures also on the budget. Of the $3.7 million proposed increase in town spending, nearly $3 million of that is due to contractual salary increases, contributions for health insurance, pension, and OPEB. The budget I proposed and that passed the Board of Selectmen was under a 1% increase at a 0.98. The Board of Finance passed a mill rate increase of a 0.99. I feel the budget protects taxpayers while investing in education with a $7.7 million increase. It continues our efforts to reorganize and right-size town government and invests in public safety. It maintains tax relief for senior and disabled residents. It funds our long-term contractual obligations and will preserve the long-term fiscal health of our town. I am proud to report that the town's fund balance, or our rainy day fund, so to speak, has more money in it right now than it has at any point in our town's history. As the RTM knows from voting on them, we have settled contracts with all town unions except for our fire department, which is currently in the arbitration process. I want to point out, to preempt any questions so that everyone understands, in many town departments you will see salary increases which are larger than the percentage of the union contract settled for, and that may be kind of confusing. It is important to remember that our budget for salaries for expired contracts was carried in contingency rather than in the department itself. Therefore, some departments may show multiple years of increases within a single fiscal year. Additionally, step increases, title changes, and hiring new employees at lower steps would also make the percentage increase differ from the contractual increase. Finally, as is customary each year, department head increases are voted on in July by the Board of Selectmen, so last year's increases are reflected in those salary lines. This information is provided in the comparison of salaries in the FY24 by union in the backup that was shared through the moderator, and that's located on page 105. Overall, there was broad support for this budget and really not many controversial items. I do not agree with some of the changes that were made by the Board of Finance to the budget, specifically in regards to the increase of investment, using the investment interest income. I am sincerely concerned that increasing investment interest revenue too much could require tax increases in future budgets. And I don't believe we should build budgets assuming such large increases. The FY24 budget is now heavily reliant on interest investment revenue, and that is not a sustainable budgeting model in my opinion. Next year's budget will be a difficult one, with expected large increase of debt service payments and uncertainty as to what will happen with those revenues. We will try to be mindful of what's in front of us of the short term and the long term when budgeting for our community. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Madam First Selectwoman. So we're going to be going through the budget, so I don't think we need to take any questions now. So we'll start off on page 40 with your office.
Okay, if everybody, I guess, has it, it's on page 40. Some things that typically get asked over the years, people will say, what is the education and membership cost? The $38,000, that's the CCM cost that we pay to the town, which most of you who have been on the RTM a while are familiar with. And there hasn't been any changes in staffing, and I'll just open it up for any questions.
Okay, any questions for the First Selectwoman? Representative Gerber?
Yeah, hi, Bill Gerber, District 2. Quick question about the CCM. Who has access to that? Who's able to use? Is that for everybody?
Yeah, it's for our whole town. We utilize it for trainings for employees. They will send trainings that we can have access to. We also provide access. Jackie, typically the Chief of Staff, works with RTM members that need information, or Board of Finance members, or whomever elected boards are looking for information.
Can members of bodies?
I believe so. Yes, they can, right? Yes, they
Okay,
can.
thanks.
Thank you, Representative Gerber. Yes, I've attended a couple of the seminars they put on, so it's great. Any other questions? Nobody on WebEx? Okay, great. You're all set for tonight. I was asked to move the Human Resources Department up because we have a couple of consultants here for that department, so we're going to move that to the second in line. Starting on page 86, we have HR Assistant Director Peter Ritchie and HR Labor Relations Specialist Joanne Cordemanche. That good? Not bad. I was going to throw some like French or something there, courtemanche, or some Spanish, courtemanche. I don't know. So welcome, your first time with us.
Good evening, Peter Ritchie, Assistant HR Director. I'll be presenting tonight on behalf of Kathleen, the HR Operations Budget. Kathleen Simpson, our HR Director. She's out of the office this week. So, and again, as Mr. Moderator represented, we've got Joanne Courtemanche with me or with us tonight assisting. She is our Labor Relations Specialist and the most recent hire in the team, so we're glad to have her with us. So, thank you. Just to read the prepared remarks that you have in your book, but just to sort of expand on it slightly, the Department of Human Resources is responsible for the following functions: labor relations, personnel administration, employee benefits, staff services, FOIA, and risk management. Managing these functions requires the interpretation and application of federal and state laws, collective bargaining agreements, the town charter, codes, and various other regulatory and statutory mandates affecting public employment. The department also provides advice and consultation to approximately 500 full-time town employees, 150 part-time employees, hundreds of seasonals, 500 retirees, and dozens of contract employees. So you can see it's a very diverse and broad group. We also have responsibility for approximately 650 Board of Ed bargaining employees, those in the area that exempt employees for retirement counseling and for processing workers' comp. We have oversight to their organization as well as all risk management functions. As far as the budget from a summary standpoint, and while Frank will speak to the various year-over-year changes in the insurances based on market and experience fluctuations, I'll briefly speak to the HR ops side. The budget request for fiscal year 24 includes a new paralegal and a new labor relations specialist added in the current fiscal year as part of our department's reorganization to meet the needs of a modern HR department. Now, since the restructuring of HR department in fiscal year 23, current year, which was completed in January, the department has upgraded and implemented new policies and procedures, agreed contracts with THEA and the DPW, as referenced earlier, and as mentioned, we've begun or kicked off our contract negotiations with PETA and CWA. Let's offer that up and see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Peter. Any questions on the HR department? Representative Georgiadis.
Hi, Drew Georgiadis, District 9. This is not a budget question, so I might be out of order, but I see that you manage FOIA, and in my district, we have a very active person. So previously, I worked with tech people. Is it now the legal person that is going to be working with us versus a tech IT person to help us with that?
Yes, so we have seen an increase in the FOIA area for sure, not just your area as you referenced. With the paralegal that joined our team, her responsibility lately has been predominantly in the FOIA space, and that is where all requests are directed now across the town. If you go to our website, the town website, under the Human Resources section, front page of HR department, you'll see a link which will take you to all the documents and request forms and things of that nature that automatically route the request. So it asks for some very basic information, and then it routes us to HR, who in turn, she, in this case, Yvonne on our team, would then work with the various elements or organizations, be it IT, be it buildings, be it wherever the information might be housed.
My question was more about the person being FOIA'd. So when we reach out to the HR person, and they will help us with the process, because as volunteers, it's onerous.
Well, in terms of information that's flowing across our servers, the town servers, any emails, for example, if that's an area of focus, that is an area where we can assist. I need to understand from Town Council Baldwin's perspective, to what degree do we get involved if it's let's say, personal email to personal email, and it doesn't travel across our servers. I need to research that and understand it.
Okay, I'll reach out in the future, hopefully not too soon. But in the past, the town helped us as elected town people to manage our response to FOIA requests. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Georgiadis. Representative Pastilli.
Hi, Sharon Pastilli, District 3. I have two questions, and they're both related to the voluntary early retirement program. One is, have we been tracking the overall headcount and payroll expense before and after VRIP, like in the net change?
We can do that. There have been so many different changes, and trying to associate the issue is going to be trying to associate a person who left with a person who came in, and whether or not that's a one-for-one swap, and was it meant to be a one-for-one swap, or was it that as part of the reorganization that we had a person leave and then somebody else come in at a different level? So, it's something that we could attempt to do.
So when we voted on that, we asked, because the last time we had a voluntary early retirement program, off the top of my head, I think it was 2009, so nobody go back to the videotape and quote me later. And so we had tried to track what the impact was on that. We didn't have it. And so we asked for the impact to be tracked during the deliberation process on the VRIP, so that in the future, if it comes up again, then we know what the impact is going to be. So we've requested that to happen. So if you could, that'd be great.
Yeah, so we can try to do that. The issue is that the further we get from when VRIP was enacted, the less reliable the data is, because you have so many different things not related to VRIP happening within town government that it's going to skew. It's definitely going to skew the data, and it's going to be hard to isolate whatever happened in VRIP and isolate that from everything else that's going on in the town.
But you could footnote it for us, right? So you can footnote the movement so that we can decide what's in and what's out. I mean, 'cause it is critical for us to understand the impact on the budget that has.
And just to further expand, when we, it was the intention of the administration to make government more efficient, and wasn't necessarily about finding savings in government. So, we can make an attempt at it, and happy to work with you to do that. But it was never our intention to produce massive savings, and it was more about making town government more receptive and more serviceable for the town and its residents.
Yeah.
If I could, oh, sorry.
No, I understand how it could be hard to track, but that is like one of the largest line items that we've incurred over the last few years until Penfield. So we just want to be able to get a sense of the scale of it. And then I have one more question.
I just want to, when you compare the impact of VRIP to Penfield or something else, the impact is not that great. I understand that the impact of on OPEB and some of the long-term liabilities over the long run look like a lot of money, but you need to look at that in the context of everything else going on in the town, and other expenses and other savings that may have happened related to it, and not just isolate the expenses, the expenses related to VRIP and how those impacted the town.
Okay, thanks.
Thank-
I think it does help us make more strategic decisions going forward. My one other question is related to VRIP, We asked if there were job descriptions for the roles in town, and so where are we with drafting the job descriptions? This is something that's come up for like 2 or 3 years in a row.
So the human resources team has really just been rebuilt over the last pretty much 9 to 12 months. And part of our focus is to expand on and refine the job descriptions that we have. We currently have developed our library, but we need to now look at them and understand if they are current or to what degree they are current. So we're going through, and I know there's been some discussions with some of the collective bargaining units that we're going to start to do reclassification studies and things of that nature. So it is absolutely part of our initiatives for the coming fiscal year.
Great. And then when do you expect to be done with them, do you think?
It's too hard for me to predict or project at this point. Because of the negotiations component of that with each of the units and truly getting a good solid handle on what people are doing, we'd have to circle back to you
It
on
might
that.
be like when each contract comes up, that's part of, right, yeah.
Sometimes that would be probably a reasonable or preferred timing. However, we have to balance execution of the contract against something along those lines that might take a little bit longer, and we have to decide which the priority is. So it varies.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Moderator, can I just add a
Yes, Frank.
point of clarification? Just getting back to the head count. So on page 249 of the budget, there is a listing of head count by department, and that is for FY23 and FY24, and that is in every version of the budget. So if you go to last year's version of the budget, you'd see that head count. In addition to kind of footnoting if there are any changes in head count, we also include notes in each department's budget to say whether we added any head count. So that information is in there, and I just wanted to call attention to that.
Thank you, Frank. Representative Spolier?
Hi, Representative Spolier, District 4. I just want to say first that I'm very excited that we have a new HR department in place and that hopefully we'll get some new initiatives like the job descriptions in place. One of my concerns and one of the reasons I was hoping to get everything in place is I don't see the DEI position in the budget this year, and it's a little discouraging, but I'm hoping that there's a reason for that and that it's included somewhere that's just not obvious.
So there are two components to that. One is that part of the ARPA money that we had set aside was that there was going to be an analysis of DEI and equal opportunity throughout the town. And so we're working our way through that, and I think Kathleen is pretty close to.
I can talk to that.
Yeah. So.
Great. So on that side of the equation, Kathleen, in partnership with Joanne, myself on occasion, have actually met with 3 different consultants. We're following purchasing policies and want to ensure that we have 3 different quotes. We have finalized those interviews. We have what we feel is a very strong lead candidate, but we need to finish off the process. And one of the consultants, the third consultant that we've met with, we're still trying to understand their proposal a little bit more with more clarity, so then we can do an apples-to-apples comparison. So we're very close to making that decision on who to work forward with. But really the responsibility is there to sort of build on what Jerry just offered is let's understand the blueprint, how they can help us interpret and action the blueprint in the best effective way to include designing the strategy to deliver against that, coupled with the training that we know would need to be part of that. So those are the sort of angles in which we're assessing things.
So the funding for that was through the ARPA funds, and those are good until when?
They're good until the end of next year, the end of 2024.
Okay, so we should have all that in place for that, but that was just for the consultant, so that wouldn't include any of the additional training that might come from the plan that the consultant presents to us.
Right, and so the approach is that whatever comes out of that will help inform any decisions that we make about whether whether and where we need to hire somebody else or bring somebody in from outside.
So we might see it in next year's budget then.
That's a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Spolier. Representative Zesma?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, guys. Thank you for being here. Liz Esma, District 4. I was going to ask some questions about that. So the ARPA consultant would take a look at the entirety of that racial equity justice task force blueprint, correct? Because not everything indicates an actual hire. For instance, they recommended a permanent commission. So would that be something that they would take up? And of course, that would work its way through a different channel, but I just want to make sure all of those items would be under the purview of a consultant.
So we talked about this quite a bit throughout the process. We had wanted to originally put that person in. I put it in the budget last year. It was cut by the Board of Finance, as were a number of other positions in the HR department. So the HR department is finally fully staffed as of January of this year. And obviously, you all have heard me talk about this numerous times, how our HR department really, somebody who ran a business for over 30 years, was amazed how unprofessional that department was run for so many years. And so they really had a whole lot of work to do, and they still do. And I think this is probably the best team this town has ever had, ever. And they're doing some really good work. But again, it takes time. So the ARPA money is to look at the blueprint, but not just look at the blueprint. It's also to look at how our town operations operate and talk to people and do all those things to see what kind of policies we may need to put in place, some trainings, things of that nature. But leave it up to that person, that professional, to give us whatever feedback they think we should have. I don't want to predispose them by saying what I think or don't think. I don't know if that helps answer your question.
It does, thank you.
Okay.
And also, of course, congratulations to our new hires and welcome. Thank you, Brenda. That does help. And the other question I had is, because I'm not sure if it's a budgetary item, but the internal whistleblower hotline that we have, does that go to the HR department? And is there a cost associated with it?
We'll have to circle back to you candidly. I have not had any interaction with that at this point. I'm familiar with it, but nothing's come our way. So
Okay.
defer to others if you know anything about it. Otherwise, we'll circle back.
So
Thank you.
obviously, that was put into place after everything that went on. I don't believe it's been used, but I thought it was supposed to be connected to the town attorney. I'm not sure, though. I don't remember. This was a big discussion we had, I want to say probably 2 years ago.
Yeah, the website indicates a third party, but I think when we met with Kathleen
There might have been.
and Cindy, we talked about that it was routed internally, so.
We'll get back to you.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Zesma. Representative Wackerman?
Karen Wackerman, District 7. I just wanted to go back to the job descriptions for a minute, because I know I've heard about the study that's being done for the labor union positions, but I'm wondering if there's been any progress in terms of the members of the staff who aren't union members, like the director levels, the chief administrative officer, all those positions, if those have been updated at all.
So the CAO position always had a job description. That was shared with the RTM when we put the job up back when it was first instituted. Most of the department heads already have job descriptions regarding their specific department. This was more along the lines of, like, for example, like a DPW had a lot of changes that need to be made. It's actually kind of complicated. And they're still working on those. They did iron out some things to the best of my knowledge from the contract that they worked on, but there's still some things I think we need to work on. As far as other job descriptions, some of the newer jobs we have, for example, we swapped out the admin in economic development department, if you remember, to have someone who had marketing skills and such, and then we repurposed that job, and that job has that job description because we went out to bid with that. We used a recruiter for our conservation director, so that was updated at that time. We used a recruiter for our HR director, so that may have been updated at that time. Other jobs that are new, our grant coordinating position, so that's a new position. There's some other ones, right, Jared? You've got the finance one, which is the audit, part of the DP, helping with projects and stuff. So that was recently loaded, written, and uploaded to recruit a candidate for that job. So most of the job descriptions, or some of the ones that we put together, for example, the Assistant Public Works Director that also handles solid waste and recycling, those two were kind of put together. But I can't think of any others besides those types of jobs. Is there one in specific that you're?
No, I just remember quite a few years ago when we first spoke a few times about this, that you felt that all the job descriptions were out of date, and I didn't know if all the others that are non-union had been updated.
I mean, a lot of them were. I mean, I made a joke about this with a lot of you, right? The stenographer as part of the admin, you know, and it was written on a typewriter, literally written on a typewriter. So, yeah, we dropped stenographer from all the admin jobs. That was an easy one.
Sorry, Betsy.
Sorry, Betsy.
And to offer that with many of the new roles that have been coming into scope being placed, or even other situations where it's brought to our attention something might need to be addressed, we've been doing it as we go. It makes sense, and we uncover something and we're like, we should really get this adjusted now. So that's how we've been working through the non-union or non-collective bargaining positions at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Wackerman. Any other questions? Representative Gerber.
Couple of questions. Bill Gerber, District 2. Is there anything in the HR revenue side for FOIA requests? Are you charging for FOIA now?
We are charging for FOIA, but it would be a pretty de minimis amount, and we really don't have any baseline to see what we collect. So although we will be collecting for it, it's not a big number, and we didn't include it.
So will you be charging for all FOIA requests, or only FOIA requests over a certain amount?
Peter may have better answers on the structure of it.
So it varies. Some roles or resources that reach out to us for FOIA are actually exempt from any potential cost in that regard. But generally, we have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. Some people can request to be opted out of that cost structure or fee structure. But then others, we typically enter the discussion as though it were to be charged. There's charges related with it, because it is a considerable amount of time in many cases for redaction, review, and things of that nature to ensure that we're not divulging the wrong information to the wrong people.
And will that be, you handle Board of Ed as well? Or?
We do.
So the Board of Ed FOIA requests.
Let me check on the Board of Ed side. I know
Okay.
we obviously have all of town, but yeah, there's a lot.
Okay. And on the VRIP, I just pulled up your presentation, Jared and Mr. Schmidt and First Selectwoman Kupchak, that you made on the VRIP, and you did discuss, financial impact, and that you would provide reporting, and there were certain metrics, and this, for me, this is quite important, because I was the deciding vote to allow it to pass, and it was sort of contingent on reporting, and I haven't seen any reporting. There was discussion in your presentations that you would report out the financial impacts to the bodies and update us on that. That was a considerable amount of money, and we haven't really seen a follow-through on that.
On the reporting that you just brought up, like I said, in the budget on that page, you can see the head count. I do remember last year there being a question about the head count as well, and we answered that. I still believe we were down 2 personnel, so I remember there being a question last year about that, and that satisfied whoever had asked that question, and we didn't receive any others. And in addition to that, like I said, any changes to personnel or any changes to headcount are in the department head budgets. So that information is in there as far as on the headcount.
But if you look at your presentations that you made at the time, you said you'll report out the financial
Point of order,
impact.
Mr. Moderator, point of order. This is not relevant.
No, the financial impact of the VRIP is very relevant to the budget. We have not seen that. I don't see it here, and I don't know if we made
You've
the right decision.
Mr. Moderator, he's made his point. He's requesting information that they don't have, and they can provide that to him, but it's not part
It's
of our
fine.
budget.
I
Please
disagree.
continue, Bill.
Yeah, I disagree with that, and that makes no sense to me. So I'd just like to make that point, and I think we are due that as part of the budget process and as part of future asks for budgets, to know that you're going to follow through with promises on large expenditures would be helpful. Thank you.
And what I would ask, because there have been so many changes, is if you have specific questions about the impact, then let us know, and we're happy to look into those questions.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, I would like to know the financial impact of the VRIP.
That's not very specific.
That's what you.
So if you can.
I'm sorry,
if you can
Mr. Schmidt. That's what you.
expand on
That's
it.
what you presented. There are numbers in a presentation that you presented to us of what the expected financial impact of the VRIP was. You had a sense for what you were going to look at, and I'd like to. I think we are due that.
And
Thank
we
you.
did give some update post VRIP, after VRIP passed, and we did give some update on what the status was and the impact was.
Can we get the financial impact of the VRIP then?
At this point, if there are specific areas that you want to know more about, then let us know and ask.
I was the
questions.
deciding vote to approve the VRIP, and I'd
Okay,
like to.
Representative Gerber,
Yeah.
let's, I'm going to cut you off here.
Okay, thank you.
Let's let them get you the information you requested if you send it through me, and we'll get it answered, okay? Thank you. Any other questions from the body? There's a grand total of 6-person increase for the town, Frank. Here you have, how many of these positions are not filled currently?
So are you talking about?
Or how many of these positions of the 491 don't have a body sitting in a seat?
Yeah, so of the 491, which I would just point out that water pollution and all those self-supporting funds are supported by different revenue. I just want to make that clear. But for the regional fire school, it's only a portion of a position, but that was a proposed new position this year, so that would be unfilled. The purchasing department still does not have yet a assistant director of purchasing, and then the DPW finance analyst position is something that I believe we just closed the advertisements on, and we're collecting resumes on that now.
So what's that, 1 point, whatever the number was? 3 or something?
2.35.
2 point, okay.
Yeah, so three people. You're
Thank
right,
you.
3 people.
Any other questions? Representative Georgiadis?
Drew Georgiaz, District 9, thank you. I have a question about the head of DPW. He's still it's an interim position, correct? And it's required by the charter that that person is an engineer, is that correct? The current interim is not an engineer, so is that person going to be replaced soon?
Well, that's not actually a budget question, a related question, but that is more.
I just brought it up because the new person that replaces him as being an engineer might require more money, and that would impact the budget. So that's the reason I'm asking. Thank you.
Correct. No, we wouldn't actually require more money, but as I mentioned during the charter process, we are probably one of very few towns in the state of Connecticut that actually require that. It's an antiquated 1960 sort of thing before our town actually had an engineering department. We do have a fully staffed engineering department. We actually have more engineers that I hired over the last few years than we've ever had. A DPW director has to manage a giant department. It has to have strong managerial skills. It is the biggest department in our town government. It also requires construction information, how to manage projects, and things of that nature. It doesn't really require, if you look at it applicably, an engineering degree.
I
So
understand that, Brenda, but I'm just asking, because it's required in the charter, what the, so
we're-
you don't think it will cost more money when this person is
No, I
replaced?
do not think it will cost more
Okay,
money.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Georgiadis. There's nobody online, nobody else here. All right, we have operations next. Oh, sorry, that was operations. We have insurance and claims. Does anybody have any questions on that? Workman's comp. Unemployment compensation. Looks like you all are done. Thank you for coming tonight, and welcome in your new jobs. All right, Betsy, town clerk. I don't know how to do that, so I can't. Nobody went to Catherine Gibbs? No?
It's Greg Shorthand.
Shorthand. Page 44.
Do you want me to go into answer questions or just give a quick overview?
Just give us a quick soundbite.
Quick soundbite, contractual obligations increased my regular payroll. I tried to find savings to offset the increase that I had in advertising, and that's about it.
All right. Any questions for Town Clerk Betsy Brown? That's fantastic, because I couldn't take the notes. Oh, Jeff, you got to raise your hand high. Thank you. Representative Galdenzi.
Representative Galdenzi, District 3, now 7. Just on the revenue side, why do you believe the conveyance taxes are going to be dropping so significantly?
I had decreased it just due to the way the real estate market is right now, and then the Board of Finance further decreased it, I think by $100,000.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Galdenzi. All right. Love to see you back here doing your shorthand. All right, next up, Town Planning and Zoning, page 59. Mr. Jim, Planning Director Jim Wendt, you are online, I believe, sir, correct? Yes, there you are.
I am, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to join you remotely this evening. Just a quick snapshot. My budget summary indicates that the total of the non-salaried items in my budget is increasing $750. That has now been reduced to $355 as there was an adjustment in the motor vehicle fuel line item. So in all, it's a $40,000 discretionary line items, which is a net 355 increase over last fiscal year. That's all I have, Mr. Moderator, pending any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wendt. Any questions for Mr. Wendt from the body? All right, Representative Brown.
Christine Brown, District 9. Hi, Jim. Can you just explain what the inclusionary zoning fees are that support the Affordable Housing Trust Fund?
Sure. The 2018, when the RTM adopted the Housing Trust Fund, shortly thereafter, the Planning and Zoning Commission adopted a regulation to create a fee to support that fund, which is essentially a $5 per $1,000 in value for building permits for new construction. So that line is about a 3-year average of $380,000 that funds the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This fiscal year so far, we're at about a little over $500,000, but that's based on a $5 per $1,000 of value for new construction.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Brown. Anybody else? Representative Gerber?
Hi, Mr. Wendt, Bill Gerber, District 2. I just was wondering if you could sort of run us through, it seems like you're going to have a busy couple of years coming up with a lot of federal and state money for major road projects and major infrastructure projects. And are you staffed to sort of, we have got the Plan of Conservation and Development that's coming through. Are you staffed to sort of handle like sort of the influx of, hopefully, of grants and projects?
Well, certainly, yes. For the POCD, we were allotted some ARPA funding for that consultant to be brought on to help us with that, and we are moving that along. As a quick commercial, we have a public workshop scheduled for Thursday evening of this week. I know some of you have already registered for that. With respect to the other piece of your question, in terms of infrastructure, that wouldn't so much be within my shop. Some of those are regional projects that get managed through MetroCog, but I think by and large, the more infrastructure things are why I don't mean to speak for the First Selectwoman, but why the engineering department was staffed up with additional engineers and project managers in anticipation of those projects.
But for like, for example, like the Post Road Circle project, I mean, I'm sure that you have to be, that sounds like a huge project that involves zoning as well, or no?
Well, we're certainly involved in the overall planning process for that study in conjunction with MetroCog, but the actual construction and implementation of that is going to be a multi-agency deal because it's a state highway. The state DOT will be involved, and more likely a more heavy lift for our local engineering department than for the planning and zoning department.
All right, thanks, Mr. Wendt.
Thank you, Representative Gerber. Any other questions from the body? Seeing none in front of me or none behind me, thank you, Mr. Wendt, for coming tonight.
Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Next up is Conservation Department, page 68. Conservation Director Tim Bishop is on WebEx joining us tonight. Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen of the RTM. I also will make it brief. Looking at my non-salary budget line items, you see the largest being a capital line for $55,000 related to a new conservation crew dump truck. And the next most significant increase is the $250 increase for travel and meetings, and that's directly tied to last year's increase for educational and memberships. I've had a big push since last year for additional training for all staff, many of which have taken that into consideration and is getting their value out of that. So that's the reason for that increase. Other than that, those are the two largest, most significant items on my budget proposal. Take any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Any questions? Representative Carson.
Hello, Laura Carson, District 4. In your budget summary, you say the cost of vehicle fuels is up, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But when I look at, is that the same thing as your motor vehicle fuel and lube, where it says you have it projected at 9,000 versus 10,000 from last year? So that looks like it's going down, unless I'm confused.
Mr. Bishop, I could take that if you want.
Yeah,
So,
thank you, Frank.
so the price of the gasoline is going up, but this year I looked at actual consumption of gallons, and so even though the price is going up, the actual gallons that conservation has used over a period of about 3 years was less, so that offset the increase, so that's why it's going down. Good question, though.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Representative Carson. Any other questions from the body? All right. Thank you, Tim. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you all. Good evening.
Okay. Next up, we have Health on page 170. Health Director Sans Cleary. Assistant Director of Public Health Nursing, Jill. Is Jill here? Jill Mitchell. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. For our budget, our non-payroll line items, we're going up, you'll see under fees and professional services, $700, and that was just really a correction of the addition of the individual items listed in the description of that particular line item. Other line items, you'll see fuel and lube and are decreasing, similar to what Frank had previously said. The one thing that we're seeing in our payroll line items is just related to, predominantly related to contractual settlements and just the changes in the salaries for those. And then that does also include about $45,000 of a request for 2 part-time positions related to the school health program, which Jill manages. And so in the backup documents provided for you, the justification documents are on pages 106 through 108 is the 3 documents that kind of provide the justification for that. And essentially what we're seeing at 2 particular schools, we're seeing with just a small group of students with particular high acuity types of issues that are creating increased demands and an additional student coming in for next year at one of those schools that will further increase those demands. And these are in younger students, and so we expect these demands to continue for some time. And they're demands such that not only increase visits, but also require currently, the office to be shut down for a procedure to occur, and then multiple times a day. And so what we're currently doing is trying as best we can to flex that, but we really feel the need that to have 2 additional part-time staff to come and assist those 2 schools with those demands. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Cleary. Any questions? Representative Gerber.
Just a comment. I just want to say just how amazing you guys are and what a fantastic job you did, over the last few years, and how much I think most of us appreciated, and things that we're sort of coming out of it now, and now Ms. Mitchell is seeing some of the ramifications of what we've been through the last few years, and whatever we can do, if you need more resources, you should come back.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We do. All the staff worked hard, Jill and the school nurses and the environmental staff. Everybody was out there working at the clinics and working in the schools, and everybody was doing contact tracing. Everybody was helping out, and it was a really great effort. Our department, as well as with many other departments, rising to the challenge, including, Public Works and all the cleaning they did, and the school system went, the demands placed upon them was incredible, but we appreciate that, and we're happy to be on this side of it.
Just a question, is the nurses' contract up or almost up? Where were you on that?
It was recently settled.
Okay, great. Representative Pistilli, you guys moved the table back so I can't see you.
Sharon Pistilli, District 3. I just had one question. Where we're incurring costs that are a little bit like above and beyond due to specific circumstances for specific students, is there state reimbursement for that by any chance?
I don't know how, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. Sorry about that. As far as my department is concerned, no, we don't ask for any state reimbursement. There may be some costs incurred by the Board of Ed for private special duty nurses, and they may be able to recoup some of those, but I'm not aware of that procedure.
Thank you, Representative Bastilli. Any other questions or comments from the body? Seeing none, appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you
night.
for all you guys did, too. Okay, next up, we have Human and Social Services, page 176. Human and Social Services Director Julie DeMarco is online with us tonight. So, Julie, give us...
This year we have a couple of changes that I'll go through pretty quickly for you. The first is that we're requesting an increase for part-time payroll to increase the hourly rate for social services staff and transportation. You'll see that the secretarial services line item is doubled, and that's because now we have two commissions, the Human Services Commission and the Commission on Disabilities. You'll see a drop in fees and professional services. We are taking, I picture this as taking $750 to put into the secretarial and an additional amount to go into office supplies, which you'll see is doubled. And then we've dropped that by $3,000 this year. You'll see in maintenance and repairs, we've reduced that by $7,000 this year. We have the bathrooms, the HVAC, and the kitchen projects, which will be going on next year. And we just didn't feel as though we would be able to do some of the projects that might be on our list, so we reduced that amount for this year. And new for us this year is revenue. We have an estimated revenue of $83,000. That's an estimate because we have out-of-town fees and fees for some of our classes, for our exercise classes. And you'll see in the budget at the very bottom, the senior center programming, some of the revenue will be applied towards the instructor fees for some of the classes. So that's a new line item for us as well. Any questions?
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Julie. Any questions?
From the body. Representative Gerber.
Hi, Mr. DeMarco. Bill Gerber, District 2. I thought I saw that there was revenue in like transportation for out of town. Did I see that incorrectly?
That's a misnomer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the line. That line, I'll change it in the final version.
Okay, so it's for the classes, for the fees for the class.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, and my other question is, I was recently at a meeting and someone mentioned that Fairfield has a share of the state opioid settlement, and I was wondering if that is that under you, Mrs. DeMarco, or is that somewhere else, or is that actually true? Because I was at a forum where they mentioned that some of that money went towards funding a forum.
I was at the same one. That is not under our department.
Oh, okay. Which department is that under, Mr. Schmidt?
So part of it depends on what the purpose of the funding is going to be for, but I know that the Fairfield PD gets involved, and so we're still in talks with the police department and trying to figure out the best use of the funding.
How much was our share?
I can get back to you on that.
Is it like over $1 million, or?
It's not going to affect the operating budget, I know that, but we will. It's not over $1 million, no.
Okay. We have it. We've been given that money. It's in the bank account.
We have a portion of it, and there's. My understanding is that it's going to continue to trickle in over time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Gerber. Representative Spolier.
Hi, Representative Spolier, District 4. I just had a question. I know you said that with the new commission, there were obviously the clerical increases, but I was wondering if there was anything that possibly came out of that commission that would be suggestions for improvements that might increase our budget in other areas.
That's a great question. It's a new commission. So right now it's still kind of in the trying to figure out areas that they really want to focus on. You know, we have an ADA compliance officer in Tom Bremer, and the town does work on issues that arise, you know, sidewalks and things like that. And that typically, I suppose, would come out of DPW's budget. For our purposes, I don't think so, but it's not out of the realm if there's education or things that we need to pay for, you know, extra trainings, that could be something that comes our way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Spolier. Any other questions from the body? There's none from WebEx so far tonight, so you're either watching the Knicks game, the Rangers Devils game, or the Yankee game. Okay. I think you're all set there, Julie. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks very much.
Next up, Community and Economic Development. Community Economic Development Director Mark Barnhart. I believe you're online too. Yes, there you are. Go ahead.
Hopefully you can see and hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Okay. So I'll be brief.
Sorry, page 91.
Outside of the salary and benefit lines, there's $1,000 increase to fund the at least the inceptual work of the Arts Commission. I'll be happy to answer any questions the RTM members may have.
Thank you, Mr. Barnhart. Any questions from the body? Representative Wackerman.
Karen Wackerman, District 7. Mr. Barnhart, thanks for your help on the Arts Commission. And as you know, the body will have to vote soon on a Fair Rent Commission ordinance because it's required by state law. Is there any funds allocated to that because you might be, you know, administering that, or are you going to wait and see for the following year? I know that'll be new.
More the latter. I do think there will be some cost implications, certainly some staff time devoted to staff, you know, providing administrative support to the both the Arts Commission and to the Fair Rent Commission. But you know, the exact cost implications are not yet known, and I would anticipate there'll be a request made as part of next year's budget proposal.
Thank you for your help with that as well. Sorry, we're dumping 2 new commissions on you. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Wackerman. Any other questions, comments? I don't see any more, Mark. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay, next up is the assessor, Assessor Ross Murray, who's online. Go ahead, Ross.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for having me. I'll also try to be brief with my budget. I think the only item that's probably of consequence is my fees and professional. That account is going up by $87,875, and that's made up of 2 components. One is a decrease in the outside services for tax appeals. We're reducing that by $80,000, and then there's an addition of $150,000 to start the site visit portion of the revaluation in the spring of '24.
Thank you, Ross. I have a question concerning senior tax relief. Could you give us an update on how the applications are coming along, where we stand? I mean, the deadline's what, May 15th, just around the corner?
Sure. We've received 386 applications as of about noon today, and 12 of those applications have been denied, so we've netted 373. We expect another 275 to come in, and that nets us right about where we are last year. But I will add, we've had 72 new accounts this year, so that's up quite a bit. And we also just did a mailing late last week to reach out to those that we think might be qualified based on age and homeowner status. So those letters are just hitting the beginning of the week.
And how many letters were sent out?
I'm sorry?
How many letters were sent out?
1,000.
1,000. And so I don't have the number off the top of my head. I apologize. Well, so what's the net number from last year that you think we're going to be hitting again this year? Overall?
It's hard to say with the letters. We're just not really sure how that 1,000 is, what we're going to see from that. But we should be up from last year. Again, the total last year was 1,137. So I would suspect we'll be up a couple hundred from that.
All right, that's great news. Any other questions from the body? Did you raise your hand? Go ahead, Representative Gerber.
Yeah, Mr. Ross. Hi, Bill Gerber, District 2. Have you worked through, I know there's some discussion about working through ways to let homeowners reapply if there was some sort of quirk. Like there was something, a case, a couple years ago during the spike, the asset spike that then reversed like a few months later, and someone that I know was denied entry into the program that had been on it for a long time. Is there a process now that would let them sort of reapply?
Well, anybody can reapply in a subsequent year.
Right, in the current
if they've been denied.
Yeah. In the current year because of some quirk, because people can apply at any time during the year, right? So their as of date for their assets could be any time, right?
Right. So, right, they can apply between February 1st and May 15th. That's the application period.
Have you? I think you were in discussion maybe with Representative Vergara at one point about maybe allowing someone to reapply if like there was a bubble like for a month or two and then it reversed.
Yeah, the assets is a difficult component, and we don't necessarily check their statements. It's up to them to sign an affidavit to the effect that they don't exceed the 650,000 limit. So we do rely on their honesty on that affidavit.
Okay, so that hasn't been done. That's still TBD if we push for that. Maybe that's something like
right.
to reapply. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Gerber. Anybody else on the body? All right, Ross, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Good night.
All right. Tax collector, Dave Klazuski. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator and other distinguished members of the RTM.
I apologize. Sorry to interrupt. 112.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good. Go ahead.
All right, so as you know, I'm here to present the tax collector's budget. We bill over 80,000 tax bills, collect the majority of the town's revenue. A lot of the expenditure end of the budget involves the printing and mailing of the tax bills. The majority of the increase that you see here is all contractual wage increases, as myself and the rest of my staff are all within the union. So they're all, contracts are settled at this point. And I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Any questions from the body?
Can we?
Representative Gerber.
I'm sorry. Sorry to monopolize too much of this, but Bill Gerber, District 2. Can we talk about your? Hey, how are you? Thank you. The revenue side of this for like late fees, and what page is that on? How? When people pay late, they get a surcharge, right, or a fine for late.
Yeah. So we
Page
are
11.
statutorily required through the state of Connecticut to charge interest at a rate of 1.5% a month, with an initial rate of 3%, because you get a 30-day grace period. Once that passes, then there is a, for example, if the taxes are due July 1st, 30-day grace period of August 1st. So when August 2nd hits, there's a 1.5% interest rate charge for both July and August.
Is our system working properly? Because I've heard from a couple people that they've seen late fees when they've actually paid on time. Do you get a lot of complaints about that?
No, I mean, there's little, it could be simply that their payment crossed in the mail. We do get a high volume of mail, so it's possible that they sent in their payment and they can still view their bills online. So if we haven't processed it yet, then interest would show online in the online lookup system, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're late because we received their payment. If it's postmarked as timely, then it's processed as timely.
Okay,
So it could just be a misunderstanding and where they're seeing their payment online as late, but it just hasn't been processed yet. Because during collection months, we do get a high volume of taxpayers in the office and by mail, so there can be a little bit of a delay in processing.
So you don't think we're in need of like a updated system? Our system is fine? Or
the current system that we're using is used in approximately 150 municipalities in Connecticut.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Moderator, point of order. Just quickly, I know you're given some leeway on revenue questions.
I know, we have no control over revenue.
I know, I just want to be cognizant of that for tomorrow night when we get into high revenue departments. I appreciate the conversation, but.
I understand. Thank you. Representative Gale.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Hi, Hannah Gale, District 6. So I'm just looking at your description, and these 81,000 accounts, obviously that exceeds the population of Fairfield, so that must include business accounts as well, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it includes motor vehicle taxes, business personal property, as well as real estate taxes.
And is there any reason why there's not a separation between the residential and commercial taxes being collected? Because it seems to me like that would be very helpful for us to see just the commercial tax revenue separately.
Well, my system doesn't break it out that way. It could be, it's possible that through the assessor's office, through the grand list, but like I said, in general, my system is not, I can't break out, my reports don't break out by, a tax bill doesn't tell me, the system doesn't tell me if it's commercial or residential based on the tax bill. Like I said, it breaks it out by tax types. So it isn't something that I would be able to easily just compute.
I'm sorry, I'm just curious, because obviously the size of our town is growing so rapidly, and I'm just wondering if that is something that happens in larger cities. Do they tend to break that down, commercial versus residential, more often than a smaller town?
In terms of the tax rate?
Just in terms of the revenue. No, just to see
Not to my knowledge. I mean, you're just saying, is there, the towns do like an analysis of it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I mean, for the purpose of seeing how well we're growing our commercial tax base versus residential.
I understand what you're saying, but it's more of, I would say that's more of an assessor-related question in terms of growing the grand list.
I see.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Actually, just a point of information, we do watch the commercial grand list growth, and it has grown. And I could send that information to the RTM if that's helpful.
I mean, I don't need it personally. I just wanted to know.
But that's a good to know, though, Brenda, if you can send the difference between whatever the last couple of years. Anybody else on the body? I just had a quick question about where we stand on our collection rate right now, and have we increased payments by banks through escrow over the last year, or are we still running about the same level of tax collection through coming into the office and coming from the banks?
Okay, so for escrow, let's see, I'm looking at the previous 2 fiscal years in terms of transactions. It was about the same. It was maybe just maybe 1/8 of a percentage that we increased in escrow, so really not much.
And that number is about, then that percentage in total is about what?
Last year it was 21.1% of all transactions. The year before it was 20.26% of all transactions coming into the office.
Okay, so we still have about 80% of the taxpayers in Fairfield come into the office?
Yeah, so the other 80% is either considered processed in the tax office, which I would consider either taxpayers walking in and making payments or mailing in their payments, and then it's physically coming into the office by mail. So that would be part of it. And then we also have, we take online payments. We have a lockbox service where our bank, M&T Bank, takes payments through the mail and processes for us, provided that there's no issues and it does not have to come back to the office. We also take payments, a very small percentage, but we take payments at M&T branches where you don't have to technically be a customer as long as you have your original tax bill. Customers can make payments there, but it is a very small, about 2% pay at the branches.
Okay, thank you. So, and we still have, I'm surprised Representative Durrell didn't ask about the People's Bank kiosk, but they were bought by M&T, so we still have that down at Town Hall.
I'm sorry, you're cutting out a little bit there.
We still have the M&T Bank kiosk down at Town Hall, or what was the old People's Bank?
We don't have a kiosk
or
at
whatever
Town
it
Hall.
is, the machine, I don't know.
Taxpayers can go to any M&T location, whether it doesn't even have to be in Fairfield, and they can pay their taxes with their original tax bill at any M&T branch. It's just an optional service if they're not able to make it down to Town Hall. But it is, roughly 2% that use it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Dave, thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. Page 116, Information Technology. One of our favorite players, IT Director Dave Kelly.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Dave Kelly, Town IT Director, presenting the IT budget. This year's budget request is basically just a rollover of last year's with a few tweaks to account for expected inflationary changes in some of our line items.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions for Mr. Kelly from the body? The left side's a little cold tonight. Representative Gerber.
Hey, Mr. Kelly, Bill Gerber, District 2. Thanks for taking my question. The remote technology that we're using, is there anything in the budget to upgrade our current system for remote meetings?
Yes, actually, it's not in the budget, though. It's an ARPA-funded project.
Oh, that's fine.
We are preparing 6 rooms in town.
This one tomorrow? For tomorrow?
So 6 new meeting rooms for remote, to allow remote access?
Yeah, there will be 2 rooms at the fire training school, 1 conference room in Old Town Hall, 1 in Sullivan Independence Hall, the conference room there. And actually, I misspoke. There are 3 rooms, I think, in Board of Ed spaces, including the room you're in. we'll have Zoom room technology where you'll no longer have those microphones in front of you. There will be microphones in the ceiling that pick you up without having to press any buttons and so on. It's been a very, very, very long road getting to this point, just waiting for parts and equipment through the vendor that we've ordered the rooms through. But we're actually making a final planning inspection later this week in these rooms so that they can implement, because they have almost all of the equipment in. So,
You're lucky you're not here. We would want to have a group hug with you on that. Yeah.
well, it's not really just me. But it's kind of been an ongoing push for quite a while with the administration, Board of Ed, and Town IT to get this in. It's taken way longer than we ever would have expected, but supply chains are finally clearing up, and it's coming soon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Representative Gerber. Any other question? Representative Zesma.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Liz Esma, District 4. Hi, Dave. Just wanted to say thank you for all that you and your department continue to do in some pretty difficult times. And very, very happy to hear about this ARPA, how you will put the ARPA funds to use.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Zesma. Nobody on WebEx, nobody else here. Next year, we're going to use some ARPA funding for an escape room. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, purchasing, page 164. And our new purchasing director, Adam Tullen. I think you were here and went home.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Moderator. I'm Adam Tulin, the new purchasing director. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Well, good to meet you, and go right ahead.
Mr. Moderator, Adam had discussed this budget because he wasn't here when this budget was originally formulated, because the old purchasing director was here. So I can go over the budget, and if Adam has anything to fill in, he can. But really, nothing changing here. The only thing we did was take out the 2,000 in capital outlay, which was for something that we purchased in this fiscal year, so that's not needed. And then the only other changes are to salaries, as with all the other departments, due to negotiated salary changes, and that's all that happened with that budget.
Sorry, I might have given the wrong page. I can't read my own writing. It's at 104. It looks like a 6 mark. Your mother told you had bad handwriting? All right, any questions on that budget? Frank, while you have the mic, I just have a question overall on this fuel and tune and lube budget for everybody. It seems to be down, and I think across the board. Does that have to do with gas prices, or for these departments that not like DPW, is this partially the electric vehicles when we get them, hopefully this year, going to kick in and we won't be using as much fuel?
So the reason why I did this was because, like with the other question, I forget what department it was, but I looked at fuel usage for the departments, and I looked at actual fuel usage versus the fuel usage that they've budgeted in the past, and they all used less than they budgeted in the past. So I thought, with the discussion of the electric vehicles and actual reduced consumption, the reduction to the projected consumption in gallons offset any increases to gasoline. So that's why you see it going down across all departments.
Have we done anything to study how much fuel reduction we're going to have once we get these electric vehicles? Or is that a question for Mr. Bremer, or are we going to see a lot of this disappear? Not all of it, because you still need to do maintenance and such, but
I think it would probably be a question for Mr. Bremer, but I don't know if it would be a one-for-one, because you probably would see a reduction in fuel costs, but then I'm assuming that we're going to see some increase in electricity. So, you know, I don't know if he's done anything on that, but.
Aren't those solar powered or no? No, they're on a electric grid, the charging stations?
No, they're electric. And just to be clear, we didn't buy a huge amount, right? It was just some of the departments that go around and do permitting. You know, obviously, we still have DPW, we have fire, we have police, and those all use a lot of fuel.
Yeah, I'm talking about all these departments outside of those ones that won't be using fuel anymore. Okay, thanks. And we're getting rid of all the ones that are sitting out there in the parking lot, right? Okay. Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Frank, I don't want to get all warm and fuzzy feeling about fuel. I mean, when I look at it from town-wide, it's going up. It just looks like your analysis put the onus on the departments that are using the most. It looked like nobody was, it looks like in the big picture we had the right number. It's just it wasn't allocated over the departments where you wanted it.
Yeah, that'd be a better way of saying it.
Yeah, because you had me going there for a minute that, wow, fuel went down. And then I look at, town-wide, and it's up 15%, and I'm like, okay, Ed, that's more like it.
Good job, Frank. You almost had him. When does that ever happen? Okay. Anybody else? Representative Gerber.
But we're still purchasing, right? We're still in purchasing?
We are still on purchasing.
Okay, Bill Gerber, District 2. Question about purchasing. I saw that you have an increased head count, but I heard quite a bit about backlogs in the purchasing process last year, especially with Board of Ed, sort of not being able to get invoices paid. Are you appropriately staffed to run now without backlogs?
I think we're well on our way. I'm currently in the recruitment process for that assistant director position. I hope to have that filled within the next several weeks. And then we'll be looking to get, we'll be looking to be at, full staffing at that point. I will say that in my short time with the town so far, I've had, weekly meetings with my counterparts at the Board of Education. I think we have a very positive relationship going. So I'm hoping that we'll keep things moving efficiently as we move towards sort of the end of year rush.
And from a systems perspective, you're all set with being able to check on sort of when you have put stuff out to bid, you've got contracts, and then sort of checking on subsequent purchases with those companies, and checking on whether or not they're within the bid parameters and all that that came out of the internal audit. Are you sort of all set with that in terms of manpower and systems?
I believe so. I mean, long term, I would say there are new sort of platforms that are out there. Maybe that's something we look at in future years. But in terms of internal and staffing right now, I feel very confident with my staff that I've inherited here. I think they're very competent. We're meeting, every week, having a staff meeting where we're going over expiring contracts, what bids we're working on. So yeah, I think we're doing okay right now.
But in terms of efficiencies, is it still highly manual for sort of putting stuff into? Are you still doing manual, paperwork and having to check on things manually, or do you have systems that will allow you to get alerts and when you're over a certain threshold, or? Is it still mostly like purchase orders, manual purchase orders and stuff like that?
Yes, I guess to answer your question directly, yes, it is manual in that regard. But we are working on sort of streamlining our paper trail to be more, again, sort of digital, more e-friendly. So it's a work in progress.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Gerber. Representative Zesma.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Liz Esma, District 4. So I don't know where we stand with the promise at some point of a new purchasing policy being developed, but if and when that happens, will it have any material impact on the budget, depending on if it requires different procedures than what you're working under now?
So what I can say is we're actively working on that right now. We hope to have a final draft to the appropriate subcommittee of the Board of Finance, I think by the end of this week. I don't want to get too ahead of myself there, but in terms of impacting the budget, I'm not sure. I think we're looking at raising the thresholds a small amount in terms of what needs an informal process, what requires quotes, what needs to have a full formal procurement process. But I'm not sure. I don't think that would really impact the budget per se.
Okay,
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that you're that close.
to finalizing something. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Zesma. Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ed Bateson, District 1. Adam, how long have you been on the job?
I believe today might mark 3 months.
Okay, welcome aboard. Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Bateson. Anybody else? All righty, Adam, welcome, and thanks for joining us tonight. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.
Many of these ahead of you. All right, last topic for tonight, page 100, finance.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We really only have one change.
Page 100, sorry, Jared.
Yep. 100, and the numbers are on 101. We only have one change outside of the salary and compensation area, and that's an increase of $5,000 in educational and memberships. That increase is related to potential increases because we're doing a deeper dive into our accounting and purchasing system of Munis, and trying to figure out more ways that we can use it, because I think it's underutilized right now, and there may be some training costs involved with that, so we added a small amount here.
Thank you, Jared. I don't know if you have this answer, and you can get it to us later, but the part-time grant coordinator is not a lot of money. I would like to know how much she has saved the town in grants, because I think it's a pretty good number. If that's possible. Since her hire there, I think everybody here would probably like to know how much money has been saved through grants.
Yep.
For the town.
And we'd be happy to get you those details. It's been significant.
Yeah,
and,
I believe it has, and it's commendable.
And overall, it's a team effort, but she has really spearheaded a lot of the efforts, and there have been a number of different grants in the range of millions of dollars that have come through. So it was a great hire, and we're so lucky to have.
Could we do even more with a full-time person? Not that we can do that here tonight, but.
So with Terry in there, she's incredibly capable and capable of doing the work that she has right now. And one of the things that I was just talking to, it's not unrelated to the education piece of this, which is using technology to help process some of these grants and track some of the grants. And so we're hoping that that's going to free up some of her time to be able to focus on bringing in more grants. I'll say, one of the things that we're trying to keep in mind also, though, to go along with this is our ability to turn around the projects. especially with the ARPA funding that we have right now and the capital projects that are on the capital plan, it's a lot of work to get done. And so at some point, we may max out what the grant coordinator is able to do and that we're able to turn around. And so, but right now, we're happy, and she's happy with the workload that she has, and you know, we'll go through the next year and we'll reevaluate for the next budget session.
Because I would say without that position, we were probably missing a lot of stuff, and with it, we're gaining a lot. And I'm just curious if we could gain more with, you know, a full head instead of half. You know, it's very evident that these grants, I mean, it was after our Board of Ed meeting last week, hearing that we were granted $6 million and change for the HVAC program, so through grant money from the state, so that was fabulous. I don't know if she had anything to do with that, if that was just in the Board of Ed, but that, you know, we had to make the decision on getting that out quickly to get that money for that, the HVAC programs.
That particular one was the Board of Ed, but we have had between a couple of the grants for the East Trunk sewer line, for the emergency radio system for the police and fire primarily. That was $3.5 million, and so, you know, off the top of my head, that's a lot of money in those two alone.
Yep.
And Mark, just to answer, we thought a lot about that too, bumping it up to full-time. But to Jared's point, we talked a lot about it and analyzed it. We have a lot on our plate with the ARPA stuff as far as managing it and getting them done. And Terry likes working part-time right now, so I think we're good right now, but we are going to take that under advisement for the next budget.
Well, maybe you could get Terry in the morning and Tony in the afternoon. I don't know, but we could find
Terry and Tony, okay.
I don't know, whatever. Yeah. It's the best name I could come up with right now. All right. Any questions? Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bateson, District 1. Jared, you had mentioned education possibly dedicated towards the Munis system. The Munis has got to be a decade old now, right? The system we have, it's got to be, we've had it for a while.
I want to say it was 2012, but it was obviously predated me, but I want to say it was 2012.
I remember this discussion, and over the years, there's been a couple times where the discussions come up that Munis offers several other modules that I always thought would be beneficial to the town, and it sounds like you guys are now seeing that, and that might be where you're going to expand the system and its usefulness and what it can do. And I get that. But from a top-level position, I always thought that that's a good time to, if you're going to double down on a product, I'm not saying double down on the cost, but if you're going to invest more in it, it's also the time to step back and say, is this where the product we really want? So, you know, I don't know the municipal finance, if this is the king of the industry and that's it and this is where you have to be. I get it and that's fine, but, you know, just some advice to you guys that, you know, when you double down on something or invest more in it, it's always a good time to say, well, is this really where we want to be? So just take that under advisement.
No, I appreciate that comment, and we will. You know, there have been a lot of changes, including some changes outside of our control. You know, the change from Bank of America, from People's Bank to M&T has consumed some of our time in implementing that. So, and you know, everything else. So we, I appreciate that, and we will take that under advisement. I don't think there are two things. One is that I think there are things that we have within the system now that are paid for that we're not using to its fullest capability, and so we want to maximize that. And then there may be other modules that we can purchase. And to your point, you know, if those turn out to be expensive, then, you know, at that point we would certainly certainly reconsider it, but yeah, I appreciate that, thanks.
Thank you, Representative Bateson. Representative Spolier?
Hi, Representative Spolier, District 4. I know this is a question regarding the revenue, but I do think it's pertinent to us because sometimes we vote throughout the year on certain things that do affect the revenue. So I just had a question on the sale of town-owned property. It's the same as last year, but what is that town-owned property that we're selling? Because I think it's really important for us to keep town-owned property, and I just want to make sure that we're not selling property that we could be using for, you know, green space or affordable housing or something else.
Page 13.
That would be more like the Crown Vics that are kind of at the end of their useful life. It's not actual, like, you know.
Okay, thank you. I was taking it literally. I appreciate that.
Although if you would like to allocate some land on the town green for a budget director cottage, I wouldn't say no. So.
Thank you.
Very good, Frank. Very good. I understand there are rooms in Burmanch and upstairs available. Maybe you could rent those.
Since Frank came to work at Fairfield, he really likes it here.
I know he does.
But he's seeing what the costs are, so.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else? Representative Zesma.
Liz Esma, District 4. Hey, Jared and Frank. So a couple of questions about the auditing side of your business. I know there was money allocated by the Board of Finance for auditing, and so question one is, will that be external auditing? And the reason I ask is because if Connie Saxel is going to be devoting more of her time to auditing, will you need any additional resources within the department for whatever else she was doing?
Yeah, so the short answer is I don't know. That was a proposal and eventually got adopted by the Board of Finance and as part of their budget. And so I think you should probably address your questions to them and how they plan on you. I did ask that question about how they intend to, how they would intend to use it, and there wasn't a lot of detail provided. So there would have to be I don't know. We'll wait and see what their intention is with that.
Thanks. And then part two is Connie will be devoting more of her time to auditing, and I know she's done some other things within the department. Do you have the resources you need to reabsorb those activities?
To reabsorb the
non-auditing work that Connie has been doing.
Yes, and with so we and Frank mentioned this when he was talking about headcount. There's the financial analyst position that is still vacant. We have I actually have it in front of me right now, but we have 23 applicants for that position, and we're gonna I'm hoping to fill that within the next month to month and a half, and my hope is that will help take on and shift some of the responsibilities that Connie's taking on right now and free her up to do to take on some more auditing. And just for background, when the whether it's from a resident or somebody in the Board of Finance, when people come to us and they ask us to look into a certain topic, give you one example. There was a resident that inquired about electric vehicles and the charging stations around town, and so there was a request for more information on that. We did an audit. We had Connie do an audit of that, of all the charging stations that belong to the town, how they're used, how they're paid for, whether or not we're collecting revenue. So, we're always open to doing internal audits, regardless of what the origin is. So, we're happy to make room for that wherever we can. But to answer your question directly, yeah, we will be freeing up more time for county to do more audits.
Jump on that to say that, not every audit is born out of a body per se. There's audits asked by my office, by the finance department. We're always asking for information, and we ask for audits just to have a better sense of things.
Thanks. So there isn't really a set of mandatory audits that are always taking place, like, in the company I work for instance. They're on demand or as needed, or?
Yeah, I would say right now they're as needed, with the exception of anything that's mandated by the state or federal government that we have to do. We have to do an annual financial report as an external audit, which is why the Board of Finance has some input into that and who gets hired, because it's an external audit. But there. I think that links to your last question, which is that with freeing up some of county's time, that may allow us to then start pursuing some audits that we can do on a more regular basis and come up with more of a plan rather than just doing them as requested.
Great, thank you. That's really good news. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you, Representative Zesma. Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ed Bateson, District 1. Jared, a couple questions. Don't get mad. I must have missed this in the Board of Finance deliberations, but I read from sound bites in the newsletter about the adding money for audits. But in the conversation I just heard, I assumed that money was going to the Finance Department. It went to the actual Board of Finance budget?
Yes.
How much was that?
$50,000.
Okay, so they're going to be auditing town departments? The Board of Finance?
I don't know how it's going to work. Again,
Okay, could you do me a favor? If you remember what meeting this was at the Board of Finance, if you could just, I'm sorry, if you could just send me like a time frame of where that is so I can drop in on that conversation, because I missed that. I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but, I don't want dual governments here.
Yep.
Thank you, Representative Bateson. Frank, I think we left Jen Castellano hanging here all night. Did we need to hear from her? It wasn't one of the...
Yeah,
it was not selected by either caucus to hear OPEB and pension.
No, yeah, I'm sorry, Jen.
As you know, you called me this afternoon and said, we have all these consultants here. Can we bump them up, Mark? I said, sure.
Sorry about that, Jen.
You owe her.
I do, yeah.
But while she's here, might as well.
Yeah, so the Board of Finance did make changes to reflect Jen's actuarial reports. OPEB Health Town retirees is now at $3.302 million. OPEB Health Police and Fire retirees are at $5.913 million. Retirement contributions $3 million, and retirement contributions police and fire are at $7.045 million. And she gave a very in-depth presentation during the Board of Finance meetings, which you can go watch. And if there are any other questions, I'm sure she'd be happy to take them.
Thank you, Frank. Representative Bateson.
Sorry, where's the pension contribution in the budget book? What page?
Page 120. No, sorry. I'm not sure, guys, but I didn't have it as a page.
It's a retiree benefits, but let me see the page.
Did you say 8-4?
80?
Page 80, yeah, retiree benefits.
8.
I'm sorry, 88, 8, what?
But
80.
80. Got it.
This is the pension contribution? It only, wait, I can't be reading this right. It went up 100,000?
So on page...
I'm on 81, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah, no, so on page 80, those are the numbers as they were on the, in the first select woman's budget, but those were estimates. So I can just go through the changes if people have copies that they want to notate this on. But Object 52105, OPEB Health Town Retirees, that number is now 3.302. God bless you. That number is now 3,302,625.
I'm sorry, what line number was that? 52105?
52105, correct.
Is now what?
Is now 3,302,625.
For the fiscal year 24 budget?
For fiscal 24, yeah, it did go down. It was offset by changes. It was offset by changes in OPEB. Oh, I'm sorry, the retirement contributions went up. I was looking at the wrong line. So the retirement contributions are, so now I'm looking at line 52310.
You can send us the detail. Just give us the total line for tonight.
The total retirement contributions for police and fire, about 10 million.
No, I'm sorry. I'm on page 80. It looked like you were going through 52105. If you have an updated budget book, what's your total there for FY24 budget?
I only have the changes at the Board of Finance. So I only have, if you're looking for the whole retiree benefits budget, I just have to calc that out real quick. But do you just want?
No, that's fine. You can get
Yeah.
it to us at a later date, but the flavor of this conversation seems like it went down.
Yes.
Hey, Frank,
retirement.
I'll give you a little advice. You lead with that.
So retirement contributions, though, just to be clear, 52310 is at 3 million, and in FY23 it was at 2,957. So it did go up a little bit. The one that went down was the OPEB health town retirees. That's the one that went down.
How did that go down?
That's where Jen may be able to answer that better than I can.
So the town health OPEB,
Yes.
that went down primarily because the expected healthcare costs for the pre-65 retirees, the insurance renewal on the insurance premiums was lower than expected from the last valuation, and about 40 or 50% of, almost 40 to 50% of the liability is due to that. So those costs went down by about 20%. And so that flows through the calculation of the actuarially determined contribution.
Was that actually, did you track that back to a change in coverage, or is it just a general occurrence in healthcare costs?
It's it's based on the information we received from the healthcare broker, which primarily is a function of the claims experience over the last 12 months or so.
No, and that's great news. I don't even think I've ever heard you give us good news, so thank you.
She just started with us, Ed. Go easy. Come on. Anybody else? Bill, you grab the mic and then Representative Gerber.
Yeah, no, my question on what was just said, I'm sorry, is that Jen? Yeah, I'm looking, I mean, I don't see that. Is this adjusted by the Board of Finance? Because in our budget book, 52105, 52110, those both went up, but so I'm not sure what I should be looking at.
So in the In the backup that was sent through the moderator, there was a list of changes made by the Board of Finance.
Okay.
And there were adjusted amounts as of the Board of Finance, so.
So they were up and now they're down?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you, Representative Gerber. I see some books packed away. Can make the second half of the Knicks game. Hey, thanks, Alex. Really? I'm DVRing the game. You had to say that? No, I don't. Now I don't have to watch that game. I can watch the end of the Yankee game and then go home and watch the Mets just for kicks and giggles. All right, nothing else? All right, this meeting's adjourned 7 p.m. sharp tomorrow night. Thank you.